Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Aisha and Meghna. Mr. Puneet Kaura, thank you very much for joining us at the India Economic Conclave. Ladies and gentlemen, Vikrant just talked about love for the country, and one of the ways in which our love for the country, is reflected is in how we contribute to its growth. One of the sectors that contributes, Mr. Kaura, hugely towards India's economic growth and towards the development of this country is the defense sector. And you're one of the pioneers in developing defense equipments, high-tech equipments. Samtel Avionics, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the leading companies that is working closely with our armed forces in strengthening the Atmanirbharta of the defense sector. And therefore, let me begin by asking you, Mr. Kaura, how do you see private players like yourselves, private companies, contributing to the defense sector? You've been in this business for some time now. By the way, congratulations, 50 years of Samtel Avionics this year. But how do you see the private players really contributing in the growth of the defense sector and in strengthening the defense sector of the country?
First of all, I would like to compliment Times Network for choosing this venue. I was here when this was inaugurated by the Honorable Prime Minister, and it's heartening to see the way it has bloomed over the last few years. Coming back to your question, I think what I can say is that we got into defense, as you rightly mentioned, we are 50 years old. We got into defense about 12 to 14 years ago, and we are a company which was always developing products in the country. R&D was always a focus for us. But we got into defense and we thought that this is a sector which can really contribute to actually making our country Atmanirbhar. And the slogan came 10 years ago with our Honorable Prime Minister, which was so appropriate. But actually, we've been doing this since the inception of the group. And defense was something that was actually contributing to making technology in the country, but more than that, making our armed forces Atmanirbhar so that our country is more secured. So it actually resonated very well with us, and especially resonated with me when I kind of joined the group. It created, for me, it was a very passionate kind of thing, more than the technology, the engineering that goes behind it. Just the real reason of your kind of existence was very important to me. I think coming to your question more, kind of accurately talking about what Samtel is doing. Samtel is right now manufacturing, avionic, electronic products for armed forces, for India, for global customers. We obviously, contribute significantly in that space. We have a joint venture with Hindustan Aeronautics, HAL, and we are kind of developing all their products in the country, and also exporting to global global armed forces and as well as civilian aircrafts. So that is the domain we are kind of acting and working in.
Mr. Kaura, one of the key focuses for India has been the import substitution in the defense sector, and therefore contributing to the Atmanirbharta in this. For companies like you, for people who are contributing to this sector, who are involved deeply in this, how do you see the challenges playing out for you? What challenges are you facing currently, and how do you see that really panning out in the near future?
So, I think as far as challenges are concerned, I think, as they say, Sangharsh is part of life. So we wake up every day to a new challenge. I am not kind of going to talk about the ecosystem and the issues, because we do that quite a bit. I'm also involved in advocacy with the government on a regular basis. I am the co-chair of CII, National Committee for Defense. So we kind of address those issues over there, and I would not like to bring them out over here because we do enough of that over in those forums. But just to elaborate in a different way, I think I feel that we have a lot of issues that we need to kind of solve within ourselves. And we can't keep on blaming the government, can't keep on blaming the people. There is, government is doing a lot. It's already doing enough. Are we doing as a citizen of the country, as a corporate citizen of the country enough? That's the question I kind of resonate with every day. Like the talk about startups, I feel every day when you wake up, you are starting. For me, of course, this business, although we are a 50-year-old group, is a kind of a startup. But we are starting every day, and every day is a new day. Every day is full of challenges. But coming to the challenges that we have, I think we have regular issues. There is nothing that we kind of get so discouraged with. We are probably more excited every month, every year, as we look at the global picture. I will go to a slightly, give you a slightly more different perspective on the global perspective. If you look at the global A&D market, aerospace and defense, it's about $750 billion. India is, right now spending about $20 billion, $26 billion a year. We obviously have a large kind of way to go, a huge potential. And if you look at the Indian GDP, we are about 3.5, 3.4 trillion, going to about 5 to 6 trillion in the next 5 to 6 years. We spend about slightly less than 2% of the GDP on defense. Imagine the potential that lies ahead of us, not only in India, but globally. And as our Prime Minister keeps on saying, we need to, look at the global market. Our target is to go to $26 billion in exports. So there's a lot of potential. And I think we should stop worrying about the challenges and think about the opportunities that lie in front of us.
Yeah, that's what the Prime Minister also says. Apada mein Afsar is what we all should be looking at. But, since you're talking about the global arena and you are also collaborating with international companies, with companies from across the world and the militaries of across the world where you're providing equipment for the military, how do you see India really moving forward in the international arena? What can India do? If I had to ask you the top 3 things that India can do to make a mark in terms of high-tech defense equipment in the international arena, what would those 3 things be?
So the theme of this conclave is fast track to top 3. And I think defense and technology, we've talked about some of those sectors in the last couple of days, is going to play a very pivotal role if you're going to get there. So I would really talk about 2 or 3 things, as you said. One is innovation. Second one is skilling. And third one is looking at basically developing capabilities which are, core to the country. So that there is a, support to the ecosystem. More like, labs. And I'll elaborate on all the 3. So when I talk about innovation, that's about creating capabilities within the country, which is basically making our country totally self-dependent. So basically making products which are built to spec, developed in the country. We don't rely on foreign OEMs for technologies. And that is a core if we want to kind of develop a real strong defense ecosystem in the country. I think skilling is a very important part to it. Skilling is a big challenge as the country is growing, and if we want to achieve the GDP targets that we want to achieve, skilling is going to play a very pivotal role. We at Samtel play a very important role as much as we can to kind of keep on pushing this kind of initiative inside the company. And third one is the ecosystem. I think over here, government also plays a role, and they would probably play a bigger role as we move. Talking about R&D labs, supporting with an ecosystem of having more players in the country. For example, an electronic space, whether you talk about defense, you talk about any other space, we are a bigger importer than oil. That's what we are saying. And yesterday we heard the minister, he talked about, basically talking about how we want to, with the semiconductor labs that are coming up, become self-dependent. So that is something that is going to play a very important role as well. So these are the three things I think that will be very important.
Okay, so two important things that you mentioned, Mr. Kaura. One is skilling. The other is, semiconductors. First, skilling. I want to understand from you, this is a fascinating area, this military high-tech equipment that you're into. What sort of skills are companies like yourselves looking for when they go and hire young talent? What sort of people are you looking for in terms of skills?
I think I must say this, that our country has no dearth of talent, first of all. You are a very, very ambitious young country, and so is our company. We are a very young company. I think average age group is still somewhere around 28, 30. And we are kind of looking at passionate young people. Of course, technically, areas are obvious. We are looking at electronics, embedded hardware, software, those kind of capabilities, which are obvious for a avionics, electronics manufacturer like us. But for me, most important is the passion that the youngsters have today when they come to our company and they say they are doing something for the country, because ultimately they know the products that they make would be going to their armed forces, and they feel proud about it. And that pride that comes, I think, is a very important thing for me. So that is something that I look for when I hire youngsters. How passionate are they for what they want to do, and the purpose of the company, how they kind of matches the youngster's vision for himself or herself.
Yeah, which is the sentiment we started this conversation with, Mr. Kaura, the fact that how are you contributing to nation building? And great if you want to join the armed forces, but if you cannot, then there are several other ways to contributing to nation building and strengthening this country. But the other important thing that you mentioned, Mr. Kaura, is semiconductors, and that is something that has come to relevance, especially in the post-COVID era. And how the semiconductor chip industry is growing. It is also shifting from its dominant country of China. India has been making great strides in this industry as well, and the government of India is pitching the semiconductor chip industry further. How do you see that really moving forward?
So, as the minister also mentioned yesterday, we've been trying to get to a situation where we are self-dependent in this space. But we've struggled, but finally we are there. Next year we will start seeing the first Indian chip from middle of next year. This is a very important area. Please understand that when you talk about electronics, semiconductor is at the heart of it. Every product that is based on electronic boxes that we make are based on these cards that go inside these boxes. And these cards basically are totally, they are dependent on foreign companies right now. So when these chips would be made in the country, we would start buying it from our local ecosystem, which is what I mentioned earlier. And this is a very major step towards making our country totally self-independent, Atmanirbhar as we call it. And I feel that this is a very important step taken finally at the right time. Took a long time to come here, but we are finally there. Over the next few years, I think we will see this will play out very beautifully in multiple spaces. We are also besides defense, we also into railway space. And we make a lot of LRUs for Vande Bharat and those kind of platforms. All of those platforms, again, are totally dependent for chips from overseas, OEMs. And that will dramatically change. So that's a game changer in my view. And my compliment is government to come out with this initiative and pushing it and making it happen finally.
How much time do you think, Mr. Kaura, it's going to take India to reach where it aims to reach in terms of the semiconductor chip industry?
So, every step is an important step. We are going to start seeing the Indian chips next year. There is also, don't forget, there is a beginning, then there is different phases, as you rightly said. So I would say another 3 to 4 years, you'll see a dramatic change. It's like any new thing, it takes its own time. Similarly, we will have chips which are slightly easier to make and then slightly more complex and more complex. But I don't know the exact plans those companies have, but my personal view is about 3 to 4 years, we should see a lot of kind of self-dependence taking place within the country.
And how much of the China plus one factor do you think would help India in this?
China plus one factor is a very important factor. I mean, if I look at ourselves, we are in the civilian aerospace space as well. And I clearly see already China plus one factor playing in over there. I think we are in a situation where the world is changing very dramatically. And I feel India is in a very beautiful geopolitical situation. If you look at Europe, it's got its own challenges. The world is looking at partnering with India for multiple reasons, not only just the kind of capabilities our country has, but also the geopolitical situation. So when I look at it from that perspective, and I look at the situation with China plus one, obviously it's going to play out very beautifully. We ourselves are beneficiaries of that. And I personally feel that this is going to be a very important kind of play, especially in the next 3 to 4 years as President Trump takes over, and how that kind of affects our relationships. And I think that's for the good of the country, for India.
Which is what was my next question also, Mr. Kaura. The fact that how are companies like yourselves impacted with the evolving geopolitical situation in the world? There are 2 wars happening. There is a US election that has Donald Trump coming back. How do you see, private players like yourselves in the defense industry who closely work with India's armed forces getting impacted by such major geopolitical changes that happen?
So, both the spaces we are in, defense and transportation or railways and metros, all the electronics we do, I feel that there is a general shift towards looking at India as a potential partner for the long term. I personally have experienced multiple, discussions or already started supplies to multiple countries which are looking at India as a potential long-term source for these equipments. This was not the case even 5-7 years ago, They are now more confident about our country. The products that go from here, we were only known as an IT product supplier. That's changing. Our image is changing. Our brand is changing. Our time has come. I personally feel that we are at the right place at the right time. And for the next 10 to 20 years, this country will grow, blossom. And I personally feel that from that perspective, we will see a lot of those opportunities coming from different parts of the world to India, not only to develop products for them, to supply products for high technology, but also looking at partnership to develop next generation of technology.
Okay.
Like we heard about satellites and things like that. I think all that will play in very beautifully, and we will see India playing a very important role in the world map for this.
Okay, quickly, my last question for you, Mr. Kaura. Defense stocks are hot property now. Any plans of cashing in on that boom?
I'm a big follower of Lord Balaji, so may his blessings be with us, as they say, inshallah. May God bless us. Yes, of course, you're absolutely right. The technology space is really doing very well, and especially in the defense stocks. I have been approached, and as we go along, depending on what kind of, numbers I get and what kind of interest I get, okay, it has to match my kind of expectation as well. But yes, we are looking at that space as well.
All right. Yeah. Best of luck to you. Our best wishes with you, Samtel Avionics. Thank you very much, Mr. Puneet Kaura. I'll end this session here. Thank you very much for speaking with us here. And cheers to India's defense sector. Hopefully, we'll have a stronger defense sector as we move forward. Thank you very much, Mr. Puneet Kaura.
Shreya, we request you to please stay on the stage with us for just a few moments, as we'd like to present a token of appreciation to you. Shreya, if you could do the honors, please.
Well, this token of appreciation, of course, is graciously offered to us by our luxury partner, Dow Milano. Thank you so much. So before we move on to our next session,